In Celframe, right, we will now look at format. In format, the first thing we can choose is the font. When you open font, you can see that there are so many different types of tabs and there's so many different types of font that you can choose from. You can choose either Western text font or Asian text font or CTL font. All you have to do is just choose the font, the type of font that you want to put into your documentation. Just choose this. You can see the example of the font type and how the size would look like. You can choose regular or bold, italic. You can choose the size in which you want your font to be in. You can choose the type of language, English, USA, or Estonian, Fijian, Finnish, whichever you want to. If you're choosing Asian text font, the same thing. You can choose the type of font, the typeface, whether you want regular, italic, bold, or bold italic, the size, and then you can choose the language in which you want it to be in. If you're choosing a CTL font, choose the same thing, the font, and you can choose whether you want it regular, italic, bold, italic. Choose the size, and you can choose what kind of language you want to have in it. The next you can see is the font effects. You can put effects, either you want it underlined or single or dotted. To put dotted, it'll be like this, or long dash. You can choose the color of your underlining. There's so many different colors. You can choose effects. You want it with effects. See, in capitals, in lowercase, or title, small capitals. You can put a strike through if you want. Put a single strike through, or a bold, or X. So if you don't want anything, just choose without. You can put individual words. You can put a relief. You can want it engraved or embossed. You can choose an emphasis mark. You can put a dot or even a circle, disc, accent, whichever you want. You can choose what kind of outline, whether you want an outline, a shadow, or blinking. If you put an emphasis mark, you can choose. If you choose dot, you can choose whether you want it blinking or hidden or shadow or outlined. So you can choose either one of it. You can choose whether you want it above the text or below the text. And you can choose the font color, what type of font color you want. The next is the position. You can choose the position of your font, where you want it a superscript or normal or subscript. If you choose the superscript, you can choose the relative font size that you want for it. The same thing goes to subscript. You can do a rotation or a scaling. You can choose the degree of your rotation, whether you want 90 degrees or 270 degrees, or fit it to the line. You can choose the scale width. You can do a spacing, how much of spacing you want, expanded or condensed. And you can choose the type of spacing you want. Next is the Asian layout, in which you can write in double lines, as you can see here. If you choose a double line, you can put an enclosing corrector with initial corrector and final corrector. If you're going to put a double line, you can put a hyperlink. All you have to do is put the URL, the text, the name, and the target frame. You can even put special events for your documentation. You can choose the corrector styles when visiting the links or unvisited links, and the background. You can put a color for your background if you want to. So once you've selected what you want for the font, just click on OK. The next thing we will look at is paragraph. The first thing we'll look is in paragraph is the indent spacing. You can put an indent for your documentation. Just say you choose a before in text and after text. Then you can choose whether you want to put a first line indent, how much of spacing you want. You want to put the spacing above the paragraph or below the paragraph. What kind of line spacing you want. We want 1.5 line or double or proportional, at least, or leading or fixed. And then you can choose to register true if you want to activate it. Next is the alignment. You can choose the type of alignment you want, whether you want left, top, or right, bottom, or center, or justified. So if you just click on justified, it will be justified. The last line, you can choose whether you want to expand single word or snap to text grid if active. You can choose text to text alignment. You can choose which one you want: baseline, top, middle, bottom, automatic. And then you have properties in which you can choose. Next is the text flow. If you're going to put hyphenation, then you can choose the characters at line end, how much you want, the characters at line begin, how much you want, what is the maximum number of consecutive hyphens that you want. If you want to put in break, you can insert a page break and choose the type of page break that you want, whether page or column. You can choose the type of break that you want, whether page or column. You can choose the position in which you want the breaks to be in. Is it before or after? You can choose what kind of page style you want to put. You can choose the number of pages that you want to put the page style. There are other options that you can choose from, which is do not spill paragraph, keep with next paragraph, often control or widow control. And if you choose either often or widow, you're able to choose the lines of which you want them to be under control. Next we'll see is the Asian typography. You can choose the line change, and from this list you can choose either to apply a list of forbidden characters to the beginning and end of lines, or allow hanging punctuations, or apply spacing between Asian, Latin and complex text. The next you will see is numbering. It gives you a numbering style in which you can choose from. And you click on the drop down button, you can see the different types of numbering styles. Click on numbering styles. It gives you a option whether you want to restart at the beginning of the paragraph. And if in the line numbering, you can choose whether you want to include this paragraph in line numbering or restart at this paragraph. So you can choose which one is appropriate to your documentation. Next is the tabs. The position in which you want your tabs to be in, either left, top, right, bottom, center or decimal. You can fill in the character as well. Choose the characters in which you want to fill in. Or you can put in a new one or delete whichever you have chosen or put in. They have drop caps as well. When you click on drop caps, you can see that it gives you the first sentence to be a drop cap or a whole word, whichever you choose. And you can put number of characters that you want as your drop cap, the line, the space to text, the contents of the text, character style of this text. You can choose the different characters, either you want bullets or caption character or drop caps, whichever you want. Next we will see is borders. You can create borders for your documentation. Choose the type of border you want. Just choose all four, and then you can choose the line type, how thick you want or how thin you want. You can choose the color of your line. You can choose the spacing to your contents, from left how much you want spacing, right how much, top, bottom, synchronize. You can put a shadow for your borders. If you put a shadow, you can choose the distance you want it from your original border, and the type of color you can choose for your shadow. Next we have background. You can choose between color and graphic. If graphic, you have to go to a particular location in which you saved your graphic and take from there and place it in your documentation. And if you choose color, you can choose any color from here and fill it in your documentation. Once you've chosen the appropriate options for your documentation, click on OK and apply to your documentation, as you've seen here. As a conclusion, you saw how to put in a font for your documentation, the types of fonts that you can choose from, the font type, the font size, whether you want to put bold, italic, and you saw how to justify your paragraph, whether centered. You can put drop caps for your documentation, borders, backgrounds for your documentation through this paragraph.